President Rodrigo Dutertes appoints Associate Justice Lucas Bersamin as new Supreme Court Chief Justice. Peace advisor Jess Dureza resigns from post to take full responsibility for the alleged corruption at the office of the presidential advisor on the peace process. And President Rodrigo Dutertes says the government should be careful in targeting Chinese workforce in the Philippines following calls for a crackdown against illegal foreign workers. Good evening. President Rodrigo Duterte has appointed Justice Lucas Bersamin as the new Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The new top magistrate who voted in favor of some controversial decisions of the court says he always comes up with a fair and valid ruling. Mai Bermudez tells us why.
Justice Lucas Bersamin officially assumed office today as the new Supreme Court Chief Justice. He took his oath earlier before Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio. Bersamin says he never expected that the Chief Executive will choose him to fill in the position vacated by retired Chief Justice Teresita de Castro.
Honestly, I do not know him at all. He does not know me also. The only time that I had ever been personally close to the President, meaning within a few feet away from each other, was when I attended the oath-taking ceremony in Malacanang of Chief Justice De Castro.
Adding, some of his priorities will be:
what I intend to do, therefore, is to look at this problem of perception by reaching out to our people in the field and to the judges. We do care about the lower courts.
Bersamin served as an Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals in March 2003 before he was appointed to the Supreme Court in 2009. He also served as a trial court judge in Quezon City. Some high-profile cases where his vote was counted include declaring unconstitutional the Priority Development Assistance Fund or PDAF during the term of former President Benigno Aquino III. He also voted to allow former Senator Juan Ponce Enrile to post bail in his plunder charges. Last July 2016, he also voted to junk the plunder case against former President and now Pampanga Representative Gloria Macapagal Arroyo in relation to 366 million peso PCSO funds. He also concurred with the burial of late President Ferdinand Marcos at Dalibingan ng mga bayani, the constitutionality of Mindanao martial law and its extension, and the ouster of former Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno via quo warranto petition. According to Bersamin, he remains fair and independent in deciding cases.
As issues in our court at the time I am there, let me assure you that I have always given these matters analytical attention and deep study. So when the time comes for me to give a vote, if it is a collegial court, or to render a judgment when I was still in the trial court, I always did my best to come up with a fair and legal and valid ruling.
Some senators believe Bersamin will fulfill his new duty at the High Court.
I think all the nominees were very good, excellent nominees.
Sa tingin ko, magaling siya, tapos yung kanyang mga kasamahan, kasunduran niya, at sa tingin ko naging patas naman siya sa maraming mga kaso na dumaan sa kanya.
The President earlier said that seniority will be his basis in appointing a new High Court Chief Magistrate. Malacanang said if the length of service in the judiciary is considered, Bersamin is the most senior as he served for 17 years as a trial court judge, 6 years as Court of Appeals Associate Justice, and 10 years in the High Court. The newly appointed Chief Justice is set to retire on October 18, 2019. Meanwhile, Court of Appeals Justice Rosemary Carandang, who has been vying for a seat in SC, was also appointed as the new Associate Justice. Mai Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Presidential Peace Advisor Jess Dureza resigns following President Rodrigo Duterte's decision to sack two of his subordinates in the office of the Presidential Advisor on the peace process. Jo Anano tells us why.
Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process Jess Dureza on Tuesday voluntarily quit his post following allegations of corruption against two officials from the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process, which he headed. President Rodrigo Duterte fired yesterday Undersecretary for Support Services Ronald Flores and Assistant Secretary Yeshter Don Bakay, both of the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process, over allegations of corruption. In a letter addressed to President Duterte, Dureza said he take full responsibility and saddened that the institution which he headed had to suffer publicly due to the acts of a few. Nevertheless, the resigned official said he left everything in the agency in its stable state with all internal functions properly turned over to appropriate officials while I concentrate my attention on the big task of dealing with challenges of peace. The president during last night's inauguration of the new Bohol Panglao International Airport announced that he has accepted Dureza's resignation.
I am very sad that I accepted the resignation of Secretary Dureza.
Dureza is leaving the OPAPP just when the government is in the final phase of the peace process with the Moro Islamic Liberation Front and while the government is pushing for the last stages of the Bangsamoro Organic Law. Dureza, a high school classmate of the president at the Cor Jesu College in Digo City, Davao del Sur, has been with the OPAPP since Duterte assumed office in 2016. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
Meanwhile, the Commission on Appointments approves the interim appointment of Teodoro Locsin Jr. as Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA. During the deliberation of his confirmation, Locsin was asked about his views on issues surrounding the West Philippine Sea and how he will be able to help overseas Filipino workers across the globe. In response, Locsin said he stands by the position of the government that it will not surrender the country's sovereign rights in the disputed territory.
When I first met the State Councilor Wang Yin, the Foreign Minister, and I said that it is not true that we can have that we will waive this right. We do not waive a single inch of what is given to us in the arbitral award in international law.
After just one round, the bicameral body immediately approved Locsin's appointment. Locsin replaced Alan Peter Cayetano, who resigned from his position to pursue election in the coming 2019 midterm polls. President Rodrigo Dutertes says the government should be careful in targeting migrants, including Chinese nationals who are said to be illegally working in the country. Joe Anano tells us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte on Tuesday said there is no question that illegal Chinese workers should be deported. However, in a speech during the inauguration of the new Panglao International Airport in Bohol, Duterte noted that the government should be careful in making such decision because thousands of overseas Filipino workers might suffer Chinese retaliation.
Be deported, but in the same manner, you should be careful because when you point to the Chinese, you're also pointing yourself at us. There are so many thousands of Filipinos working there who went inside China as tourists and working there.
This was President Duterte's response to the call of the senators to launch a crackdown against foreign workers, including Chinese, following reports from the Department of Labor and Employment that from more than 110,000 alien employment permits issued to foreign workers in the country, more than 50,000 were given to Chinese nationals.
If you think that you are at a loss, as a disadvantage, because there are so many Chinese nationals working here. Remember that we have the same equal amount of people, Filipinos, who are there working in China.
Apart from China, Duterte also notes the high number of Filipinos illegally working in Malaysia, Indonesia, and South Korea. On Monday, the Senate conducted an inquiry on the alleged growing number of foreign workers in the country. Based on the report of DOLE and the Bureau of Immigration, most foreign workers in the country are Chinese who enter using tourist visas and eventually apply for special work or alien employment permits. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
Meanwhile, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. believes there must be an established cooperation between the Philippines and China against illegal online gambling. This is amid concerns on the rising number of Chinese nationals working in the country. Nel Maribohok tells us why.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. thinks the Philippines and China should draw up a measure to combat illegal online gambling operations. Locsin says such a measure will prevent misunderstanding between the two countries on matters concerning their respective migrant workers living and working in both of their soils. Locsin's suggestion comes after calls from senators who were pushing the government to launch a crackdown against Chinese foreign workers. Most of the Chinese migrant workers in the Philippines are into the online gaming industry.
Far from endangering or in any way affecting our relations with China, apparently we're going to be doing two things. One is online gambling is illegal. We're going to stamp it out with the help and not against the objection of China.
Locsin says it is likely that the countries should join hands and help each other in addressing the issue.
Two law enforcement agencies will be able to coordinate without it looking as if we had surrendered our sovereignty.
During Wednesday's deliberation of Locsin's confirmation, senators expressed concern that Filipino workers will end up competing with illegal aliens seeking for employment opportunities in the country. This, according to Senator Risa Ontiveros, is a direct assault on our sovereignty and economy. For his part, Senate President Vicente Sotto III reminds the government to be careful in mentioning the number of alleged illegal Chinese workers in the country, as it would bring a negative effect on Filipino workers in China.
The undocumented na nahuli is not even, it's less than 1,000. We must remember that there are over 200,000 Filipinos in Hong Kong that are undocumented.
The Department of Labor and Employment will be forming a special task force to check on the operations of Philippine offshore gaming operators in the country. Majority of Chinese workers with valid working permits are linked to Pogo industry. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
China maintains it is not laying a debt trap for the Philippines with its infrastructure investments. Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez also says the claims that the Philippines is in danger of drowning in Chinese debt are unfounded. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
The Chinese investment is no debt trap for the Philippines. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Geng Shuang said on Tuesday the proportion of loan from China in the Philippines' foreign debt is very limited.
China has offered infrastructure investment based on the request of the Philippines. This dovetails with the need of the Philippines' economic and social development.
Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III said on Monday the claims that the Philippines is in danger of drowning in Chinese debt are unfounded, as the loan from China accounted for only 0.11% of the country's total debt. The Philippines finalized two loan agreements with China, $72.49 million for the Chico River Irrigation Project and 18.724 million pesos for the new Centennial Water Source Kaliwa Dam Project during Chinese President Xi Jinping's state visit on Tuesday. Geng meanwhile added that China and the Philippines are friendly neighbors across the sea, and the Sino-Philippine relationship has seen continuous improvement during recent years, bringing tangible benefits to peoples of the two countries.
The two sides will continue to deepen practical cooperation in various fields and based on the consensus reached by the leaders of the two countries to achieve common development and bring benefits to the two countries and their peoples.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
And in other news, the Department of Education, or DepEd, is setting a longer holiday break for elementary and high school students this December. In an announcement released Wednesday, elementary and high schools nationwide are ordered to start the holiday break a week earlier, now beginning December 15 from December 22nd. Education Secretary Leonor Briones says this is to give Filipino learners the opportunity to spend more quality time and strengthen their emotional bonds with the family.
We now have moved it to December 15. We believe that our learners should have more time to spend with their family, and this is an opportunity for them, and also a learning opportunity for them to bond with their families, and especially those who are visiting from abroad in terms of extended families as well as friends.
DepEd also notes that the date of the resumption and end of classes for the school year 2018 to 2019 will remain unchanged on January 2 and April 5, respectively. Composer wish-coverer Rani Raimundo of Wishcovery Season 2, The Singer and the Song, believes in the potential of his top 12 wishcoveries. Leslie Lamboen will tell us why.
Introducing the Wishcoveries, who made it to Camp Veni Saturno in the debut episode of the Wishcovery Season 2, The Singer and the Song, on Monday. Composer Wishcoverer Rani Raimundo takes his turn to reveal his 12 camp members from Northern and Central Luzon. They are Arielami Apalis,
ang lahat sa akin, kahit ika'y
Abigail Erpelo,
ang aking buhay sa'yo.
Christian Mark Bautista,
Kanang umiyak sa mundong babago pa.
Janelle Kaalim, Jemmy Picardal,
di na nadala ulit-ulit na lang ano pang ginawa. Ayo'y hindi mo namin namahal. Nag-iisa.
Joan Lambino,
Ang aking pangarap, ikaw ang sagot sa
John Marcos Pangilinan,
Your love is like a river that flows down through my
John Michael Naral,
harap ko ang ibigin ka.
Lorraine de Guzman,
ikaw lamang ang tangi kong minamahal.
Mark Francis Reyes,
pagkat walang katapusan kitang ibigin.
Rando Manalus,
Kay daling sabihin, kay hirap gawin sa mundong walang katiyakan.
and Rydel Garcia.
Sa'yo ang aking pangako.
Rani believes his team members will excel in the course of the competition with their unique timbre and singing abilities.
Alam ko maraming magagaling na Pilipino. Ang nakakatuwa, marami ako narinig dun sa top 12 ko na original yung tunog. Yun ang mahalaga sa akin.
Meanwhile, for later's episode, catch the Wishcoveries who made it to Camp Boy Christopher. Wishcovery Season 2, The Singer and the Song, airs every night at 9:30 in the evening on Wish 1075 YouTube channel. Leslie Lamboen, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Up next on Y News. The DENR to implement the 20-meter easement zone policy in El Nido Palawan beachfront despite stakeholders' objections. And 90s Canadian pop band the Moffatts boards the Wish bus anew to perform their latest single. Despite its earlier misgivings, the Senate now vows to fast-track the passage of the proposed 2019 national budget before Congress goes on a holiday break on December. Let's find out why from Nel Maribojo.
Senate leaders are now willing to work double time to pass the proposed 2019 national budget on December. This is after their meeting with Budget Secretary Benjamin Jokno earlier to discuss the immediate passage of the proposed 2019 General Appropriations Bill. According to Senate Majority Leader Juan Miguel Zubiri, they will conduct deliberations on the budget from 10 in the morning to 10 in the evening to pass the measure on time. They target to approve the budget proposal on the third and final reading by December 11 or 12. The bicameral conference committee will then convene to ratify the bill before Congress goes on a holiday break on December 13.
We'd like to show the public that the Senate is willing to work double time, overtime, even though we just got the budget measure only a few days ago.
The budget is 3.7 trillion. What are we talking about? 50 billion. Yun yung binago ng House, tama? Oh, yun na lang naman isa-scrutinize mo dyan.
Ako, kakayanin ko lahat as long as everybody supports and helps out.
DBM Secretary Jokno has earlier reiterated that reenacting a budget should not be a practice, citing its negative implications to government programs and services, particularly the infrastructure projects. Jokno meanwhile asked the lawmakers to review their calendar of regular sessions.
Mag-a-adjourn sila ng December 13, tapos mag-resume sila ng January 14. Hindi lang January 14 pa, di ba? Bakit ang ordinary workers, January 2nd, papasok na tayo?
Kasi yun yung approved calendar nila.
Ay, kaya nga, they have to review the calendar.
Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The Department of Energy, or DOE, warns that fuel prices may increase in the coming weeks ahead of oil exporting countries' plan to cut down production. Mon-Hok-Son tells us why.
World oil prices have tumbled to lowest levels following a rapid 7-week sell-off after the U.S. Intermediate crude and the international Brent crude registered a record high in nearly 4 years. Analysts have earlier voiced out concerns that oil producers are churning out more oil than the world needs, weighing down oil prices. According to the Department of Energy, low oil prices due to feared oversupply are good for fuel importing countries. But this poses risk to oil-producing countries like Iran and other nations in the Middle East.
Maganda in the sense na yun nga nagmumura ang presyo ng petroleum product. Pero kung alam mo naman ng OPEC countries, ang kanilang binebenta ay petroleum product. So hindi nila pababayaan talaga na sumadsad. So palagi nilang binabalanse ang merkado para patuloy pa rin yung kanilang business.
Fears of oversupply coupled with the bleak world economic outlook released by the International Monetary Fund for 2018 and 2019 have prompted the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries to meet on December 6 to discuss a possible production cut. OPEC has been worried that some of its inventory will not be used due to overproduction. With the plan to slash production volume, DOE says this might result to higher oil prices in the coming weeks.
Pag nangyari yung December 6 na meeting, baka maka-apekto yun. So hopefully, kung maka-apekto man, hindi ganun ang pagtaas ulit.
The DOE, meanwhile, assures to continue inspecting gasoline stations that are selling fuel at a very low price, adding that these stations pass the standard quality and quantity tests and that the implementation of lower prices is just due to market competition.
Kung may pagdududa, di ba yun sabi natin, kasi una may power of choice. Bumili ka kung sa talagang kampante ka. Alam mo, mura na siya, at the same time maganda pa yung kalidad. Pero kung may pagdududa talaga sila, sabihin lang sa Department of Energy at inspekan namin.
DOE also notes that the local oil industry is deregulated, meaning oil firms have the liberty to set domestic prices based on the movement of prices in the world market. Mon-Hok-Son, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Meanwhile, a transport group remained on its stand that the succession of oil price rollback is not enough basis to decrease the minimum fare in jeepneys. Meanwhile, the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board canceled the hearing on the petition regarding the fare adjustment. Kathy Maglalang will tell us why.
Napakaganda na nangyayari sa atin ngayon dahil almost every week ay nagbabawas at nagtatapos ng presyo ng petrolyo. So balit hindi pa rin umaabot doon sa talagang dapat kaming mag-voluntary reduction of fare.
This is the statement of Roberto Martin, the national president of Pasang Mazda, as he expressed his disagreement to lower the minimum fare. According to Martin, it's been a year since they filed the petition for fare increase, but it was only provisionally approved for 9 pesos from the previous 8. He explained the diesel costs around 39 to 40 pesos only when they filed the petition. When the price of diesel reached 50 pesos, they filed the amended petition and was then approved recently to 10 peso minimum fare. Meanwhile, the LTFRB says it will consider a fare reduction if the oil price rollback continues.
Titignan mo natin yung trend kasi hindi natin alam kung ito'y didiretso-diretso, no?
It will also study to form a scheme on increasing and reducing the fare. According to Martin, if ever the price of diesel is lowered to 39 pesos and becomes stable, they will ask the LTFRB to lower the fare.
Pag biglang tumaas ito, huwag nyo na kaming pahirapan pang mag-file. Ibalik na lang din natin sa dati.
Meanwhile, some jeepney drivers and commuters are in favor of reducing the minimum fare.
Sa palagay ko, pwedeng ibaba na rin dahil mababa na yung diesel. Pwedeng manatiling 9 pa rin dahil sa hindi pa gaanong mababa.
Mura na rin diesel eh. Bumaba na rin eh. So pwede na rin ibaba yung pamasahe at 8 pwede na rin.
Siguro dapat na nating dapat ibaba yung pamasahe sa jeep kasi kawawa rin yung mga tao. Total bubaba na rin naman yung marami na rin beses na nag-rollback yung presyo ng gasolina.
Kasi po sa sobrang taas po ng mga bilihin, tsaka pamasahe, kailangan po may baba po pamasahe.
But according to a commuters group, it doesn't matter if the minimum fare on jeepneys is 10 pesos for as long as it provides good service in public transportation.
Kahit taasan mong piso yan, 2 piso, basta gandahan mo naman yung upuan ko, hindi yung tinaasan mo na, siniksik mo pa ako ng todo. Sana, iangat din yung antas ng ating transportasyon. Yung let us move people, not cars.
Meanwhile, the LTFRB has once again canceled the hearing today on the petition to return to 8 pesos the minimum fare on jeepneys and reset it to December 4. Kathy Maglalang, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Communist leader Jose Maria Sison hits President Rodrigo Duterte's plan to form a hit squad against the new People's Army Sparrow unit, calling it a dangerous proposal. Here's why from Joanna.
President Rodrigo Duterte is eyeing to form his own hit squad to target the liquidation unit of the new People's Army, the armed wing of the Communist Party of the Philippines. During his speech in Camp Raha Sikatuna in Bohol on Tuesday, Duterte said the plan is aimed at repressing the communist rebels.
Ngayon, ang kulang talaga is ang Sparrow ko rin. Diyan lang man sila makalamang. Sa bukid, fight man yan. So, mag-create ako ng Sparrow. Duterte Death Squad against the Sparrow.
NPA's so-called Sparrow unit was formed during the time of former President Ferdinand Marcos. Duterte says he will recruit to the squad former NPA rebels who surrendered to the government.
I will match their talent also for assassinating people.
The president's statement comes amid continuing friction between the government and the communist rebels whose peace negotiations fell through in 2017 over a continued attack on state troops. But communist leader Jose Maria Sison hits Duterte's plan of forming his own hit squad, calling it a dangerous proposal. In a statement, Sison said that the move would give power to the military to kill those who are suspected members of the Communist Party. Sison also clarified that NPA's Sparrow unit has long been disbanded. Meanwhile, President Duterte also plans to deploy division-sized military forces in Holosulu to combat the Abu Sayyaf group.
Talagang isang division ilagay ko. Not only a company, not only a battalion, not a regiment, but I'm going to place an entire division for the islands there towards Sabah.
The order follows the encounter between the military and the terrorist group that killed 5 soldiers and injured several others. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
Meanwhile, the plan of President Duterte to form his own hit squad against NPA rebels also did not sit well with his critics, while Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana believes the proposal should be studied very closely. Let's find out why from Lea Ilagan.
Some senators are expressing worry and opposition to President Rodrigo Duterte's plan to create his own hit squad against communist rebels. Senator Grace Poe says the president's plan is alarming.
Kailangan ko malaman ano ba yung konteksto, pero nakakabahala yon.
Senator Antonio Trillanes IV, meanwhile, believes the threat to create a hit squad is just Duterte's way to divert the public's attention from pressing issues that are currently facing his administration. Trillanes also added in a statement that the president only wants to take away the public and media's attention from the deals he recently signed with China. For Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, the president's proposal needed to be studied closely, citing great danger of abuse or mistakes in undercover operations as well as identifying targets. Philippine National Police Director General Oscar Albayalde, on the other hand, assures that the individuals selected to join the squad will undergo proper process and training before they can be allowed to carry firearms. They also need to comply with the requirements in applying for a license to own and possess firearms or LTAP and permit to carry firearms outside of residence or PTC-4.
Yung sinasabi niya na magbibigay ng armas kung sino man yung mga ma-appoint o kung sino ang ma-qualify doon sa they have to undergo processing also. And they have to also have to have the necessary permit.
Lea Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, come cramming.
In other news, the Interagency Task Force will push through with the implementation of the 20-meter easement zone policy on the beachfront of Nido Palawan after its inspection earlier. Grace Casin explains why in this report.
DENR Secretary Roy Simato, DOT Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat, and DILG Secretary Eduardo Año inspected the beachfront in El Nido earlier today. But they are not convinced by the 3-meter easement policy imposed by the local government is enough to protect the waters. Secretary Simato says the establishments are still near the seashore. He believes that the 20-meter easement policy should be imposed in El Nido.
Oh, tignan mo yan. Tignan mo easement. Kung 3 meters lang ito, hindi na makakalakad ng mga yan. Ayan ang ibig kong sabihin why we would like to have about 20 meters easement because that's in the law.
El Nido Municipal Mayor Nieves Rosenter earlier explained that they have a basis in imposing the 3-meter easement policy since the El Nido is classified as an urban area.
So ito yung PD 1067 na if you are in urban areas, 3 meters easement from the highest watermark and 20 meters if you are not in urban areas.
According to Cottages Resorts and Restaurants Association of El Nido President Henry Fernandez, the 20-meter easement policy that the DNR plans to implement is anti-poor. Their group are ready to defend the existing 3-meter policy since they are holding the title of their lands.
If they insist for that rule, we will find that we'll go to the court.
The 3 secretaries also inspected the Buena Suerte village, where a drainage that is releasing water directly to the sea was reported by UNTV News a week ago. Secretary Simato was very disappointed with what he saw. There are algae all around, the water is very dirty, and has a foul smell. The water quality in the village failed the standard, as it has 1,300 fecal and coliform content from the normal 100.
Pupunta na doon, no? Apo. So, bali, Secretary, ito po yung itatrap po namin dito sa gagawin po naming treatment. Ito pong old market na to.
Tapos ano gagawin dito? Papunta dyan?
Hindi po. Bali, lahat po ng tubig ay mapupunta po dito sa treatment.
Secretary Simato also ordered the boats should be docked 100 meters away from the seashore. He added that all the policies imposed in Boracay should also be imposed in El Nido. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, El Nido, Palawan.
90s Canadian pop band the Moffatts are currently touring the Philippines. The band is now in Manila after a successful show in Cebu. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
first Wish Bus experience of the Canadian pop band the Moffitts in 2017, the band is back in the Philippines for a reunion tour. The Moffitts recently held a show in Cebu and are now in Manila to serenade their fans with their 90s hits.
I miss you like crazy, even more than words can say. I miss you like crazy, every minute of every day.
The band gave a sneak peek of their show's lineup when they revisited the FM on Wheels. But this time, all members of the band, Scott, Clint, Bob, and Dave, are together.
And this time it's been like almost 20 years since the four of us been together to do this together. So it's great. Very exciting.
Aside from their timeless hits, the band also shared their latest single called So In Love through a Wish-exclusive performance.
I'm so in love with you. I'm so in love with you.
The boy band thanks their Filipino fans for their continued support all through these years. And to show their gratitude, the Moffitts prepared a surprise for their fans in their upcoming concert.
Can get a kick out of it. They're going to be hearing songs that were actually fan favorites from back in the day, 1997, 98, that we never really performed live. So we're bringing those out, and hopefully you can sing those with us. Be able to come back to the Philippines 20 years after our last record and have the reception and have them welcome us the way they have. We're super grateful and we really appreciate it.
The Moffitts concert will be held on November 30 at the New Frontier Theater.
Life is so short. Life is so short.
Leslie Lumboan, UNTV News and Rescue, Taguig City.
Up next on Y News. A United Nations report shows greenhouse gas emissions gap grew wider than ever. And Kuya Daniel Razon celebrates his 35th year in public service. Y News will be right back shortly.